People commented about FICO, on how, it's so screwed up, with more wrong than right about it, and yet it's still the go-to guide for credit organizations. Correcting problems in credit bureaus. I'm sure many of you have had problems. I mean, for 11 years, they had me working as a physical therapist at Charleston, West Virginia Hospital while I was at Merrill Lynch for the same time. Took 11 years to get that off of my record. I mean, not that it hurt it, but why was it there? Why did it take 11 years to get it off somebody's record? A lot of comments about the reasonable man rules to offset some of the credit and debit card issues that were brought up with Dodd-Frank. Again, a lot of comments on unlicensed financial agents who are out there, doing basically the same thing that licensed broker dealers do, but are the 200,000 folks that are unregulated, and a lot of other fixes. A lot of comments about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, mainly because, as you all know, besides state regulation and SEC and FINRA regulation, all broker-dealers are now also going to be regulated by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And most of the products that we sell, away from simple stocks and bonds and mutual funds.
5 left. 5 minutes left.
Okay, thank you. Most of those will be brought up inside of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It's starting off with 12,000 employees, by the way, before they hire anybody. The credit and investor status. We saw at least 1,000 of the comments, some of which, frankly, were tough to follow. Others were along with our thoughts. And our thoughts on this is that just setting the standard for 200,000 in income, $1 million for net worth is insufficient without putting a standard in for what people's experience has been and what people's knowledge is. These are some of the considerations. Qualified client conformity, qualified purchasers, these are all terms that are already there, but yet they're creating, different terminology. We want to know why they're creating different terminology. Better differentiation with venture capital. A lot of the commenters said this is going to force more registered deals and less RAD deals. Others expressed, other broker-dealers, including Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, expressed concerns about the ability of broker-dealers to cover the cost increases. How are consumers passed on these costs if we can't charge more? Dollar-based fees cost versus offering cost. This is one of my pet ones, and one of the ones that's going to be part of our critical few, just so people understand. Right now, obviously, we can only charge a percentage of just about anything. However, if we go out with a $3 million offering to cover some of the initial expenses of some of the issuers that come to NIBA, okay, the fixed cost of doing that offering is about the same as the fixed cost of doing a $10 million or $12 million offering. So why shouldn't the compensation we receive have a certain fixed or semi-fixed cost comparison in dollars, not in percentages, and then have a percentage over that, so that way it's profitable again for a broker-dealer to go out and raise $3 or $4 million, because right now I can't raise less than $10 to $12 million and make money. Make any significant money out of it, 20 grand or something. So another point that was brought up by the commentators, how do BDs obtain larger universes of accredited investors? Right now, if we go out and give somebody a list of accredited investors, we talked about the other day, they have to go out and wait 6 months before they do this. So those are the comments. They're going to be creating a study on this feasibility. Certainly, we're going to be able to have a lot of response to this. The short selling rule, as most of you know, has not worked for small cap issuers. They shorted between the 1st and the 15th when the reports are due. The investment advisor rules and the fiduciary standard rules Mary Shapiro closed out her remarks with this comment the other day, which I'll let you read. So basically, these comments are the updates of where the arguments are going on Dodd-Frank. And these are the arguments where we will address our attention and the attention of the four organizations so far that are going out on your behalf to try to make these things happen. Thank you.
2 years later, we began the process of creating the private company marketplace. Things have not gotten better, and the abandonment of the small cap segment of the market continued. The capital formation process was being hijacked by trading, and the tail was wagging the dog. Private companies never had an efficient platform to consistently provide information to current and potential investors, and investors never had a platform to trade their stock when personal developments warranted. It took 4 years and more than $1 million to create the web platform and pass it through the regulators. We believed that doing it right and having it fully vetted was the best way to proceed. In essence, the private company marketplace is a communications platform to connect companies with investors and investors with companies. The website is just www.pcmexchange.com. Companies list their information. They update the information. They are in this process where you can search, the investor can search by size, shape, location, industry. Investors list, accredited investors, and are qualified with the usual questionnaire. There's a portal where
What was that website again?
it's www.pcmexchange.com. There's a portal on the website where an investor can put his shares up for sale and be viewed by other members of the PCM exchange. It's a website designed not as a pricing mechanism, but as a convenience. So when someone's personal circumstances change and they have to sell the stock, they're not looking for a quantitative, efficient market to designate the value of the company, but the fact that they need money to pay mortgage, tuition, whatever it has to be. The concept of having direct access to small companies, known companies, and accredited investors is a simple one. You use the definitions of private companies and accredited investors, not so much to avoid regulation and oversight, but to try to have something as simple as possible and concentrate on capital formation as opposed to trading. Every platform we've seen so far was based on trading. Private companies are not designed to trade. It is a capital formation process that's important, and the capital formation process in the country right now basically doesn't exist. So we're trying to get a critical mass for the PCM, but in our efforts to preach the gospel, we spent time drawing it through the industry. The industry is very hardwired to the way things exist. We're now trying to get a little bit through the social networks where people see common sense solutions, or they have certain needs, and they're more willing, I think, to create a community that's going to be using this tool to raise capital. Industry professionals should look at this platform as a tool to enhance their distribution process. We are a broker-dealer. We can participate as a selling member in underwritten private placements. At the present time, we own about 60 companies, about 150 accredited investors. But the critical mass will make this platform a very powerful and useful tool, especially in light of the fact that everything we're seeing, all the regulation, all the discussions that are going to have to take place, the market right now is really not functioning as a market. The concept of having a platform for capital formation is necessary if we're going to have an economy that's going to be answering the questions of employment and creativity. This is enforcement it is today. Right now, the concept is how do you get capital into companies? And this is a tool for people to investigate, take a look at, and use to make those distributions possible. Just quickly, there was an article in the New York Times yesterday, very appropriate. It was talking about the drop in listed companies in the country. David Grell, the vice chairman of NIBA, talking about these issues at different conferences. 1997, there were 7,459 listed companies. Today, there are 4,048. IPOs in 1996, 756. 2008, 36. 2009, 50. 2010, 100. Again, that is a global and replacement process for companies that are public. China listed companies increased by a third in 10 years. The system's broken. And the concept of what the pricing mechanism used to be, it used to go public, so you have a pricing mechanism and a liquidity factor, so people could buy and sell and have an exit. That doesn't exist anymore. Because basically, this one sentence in that article, which is the most insidious sentence in this entire business, that follows. It says, new technology, like online brokerage and regulatory changes, meant to increase competition in the nation's stock market, push trading costs to a fraction of what they were. This has generated benefits for ordinary investors who can buy and trade shares cheaply and much more quickly than in the past. By creating this environment where we create a value to buy things cheaply and quickly, we trade the entire concept of the market. The market is designed to allow capitalism to function by giving capital to individuals, to companies. And the sustaining market that provides this pricing mechanism has been hijacked, and the concept of liquidity has been hijacked to become the value in itself. You shouldn't be happy about getting something fast if it has no value. You shouldn't be happy getting something cheap if it has no value. And what the institutions have done, what the Goldman Sachs have done, and the SEC is complicit in, is change the value of pricing, the value of capital formation, secondary to high-frequency trading, as a cancer that is going to bring down this country. And there's been nothing in that bill, and there's nothing in this, in the discussions in the papers or the talking heads on TV that addresses that. And what the New York Stock Exchange, in 60 Minutes, 3 weeks ago, interviewed the executive vice president, and it wasn't on the floor, it was in the computer room, pointing to his servers connected to the high-frequency trader guys to get that millisecond advantage where they can put in 100,000 trades a day, hold stocks for less than 11 seconds, and make money every single day. The disadvantage of the market designed to create capital, that's obscene. The fact that nobody's addressing it, it's just setting up the next flash crash to oblivion. When the SEC looks at the flash crash and says, oops, it was one trade, they're missing an opportunity to correct the abuses that have been created over the last decade. And those abuses exist to make profits out of trading, reduce risk of ownership on the part of the firms, and create a dynamic that is a suicide pact to American capitalism. I understate the case. That's my view.